Could Russell Wilson be on his way to the Steel City? I don't think he's going to be in Denver for much longer. I'll be giving you guys my thoughts on potentially trading for Russell Wilson in just a second. Also, ESPN has linked two potential Kenny Pickett replacements to the Pittsburgh Steelers, one via trade, one via free agency. Going to let you know who those two guys are here in just a second as well. And then also, could Kenny Pickett actually get healthy enough to start over Mason Rudolph on Sunday against the Seattle Seahawks? Make sure you stick around for the answer to that question. But first, do me a favor, subscribe to Steelers Talk right now for every breaking news update this offseason. When the Steelers hire a new offensive coordinator, if for some reason they fire Mike Tomlin, if they get a new quarterback this year, and of course free agency and draft updates, breaking news coverage, we got it for you right here on Steelers Talk. And if that's not enough to make you click that subscribe button, Seahawks Today host Tyler Jones, he's also our Ravens host, by the way, offers a challenge to Steelers fans everywhere.
What up, Steeler fans? Tyler Jones here of Chat Sports the Seahawks Today. And we got a sub-battle going on this week between Seahawks Today and Pittsburgh Steelers Talk. And I would love nothing more than to crush you in all your souls and to take you out of the playoff picture as well. Who's going to be your quarterback? Are you going to have to get Big Ben out of the graveyard to go play quarterback for you, or Tommy Maddox or something like that? Your quarterback situation's pathetic. We're going with Geno. Things are looking good in Seattle. We're going to make the playoffs, and we're going to beat your ass on Sunday. So get ready for a beatdown. We're going to beat you in the sub-battle. We're going to beat you on the football field as well. Let's go Seahawks. Let's get revenge for Super Bowl 40 while we're at it. Big Ben was short. You guys know it. Let's go Hawks. Beat those Steelers.
If there's anything I know about Tej, is that he's got an extremely big and loud mouth, all right? So let's shut it for him right now. Click that subscribe button right now. Seahawks Today is outpacing us by just 2 subscribers, so help us get over the edge right now. Do your part. Click that subscribe button and help us beat the Seahawks Today team right here on Steelers Talk. All right, let's get into this week's news and rumors, starting with Adam Schefter here, coming to us from a news blast from Denver, where he says Broncos head coach Sean Payton has informed his team that Jarrett Stidham will start Sunday versus the Chargers with Russell Wilson as the backup. With a 1-3 record in the last 4 games, Denver is looking to spark its offense and see what it has in Stidham. So with Russell Wilson looking like he could be out of the picture there in Denver, could he be an option for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Because now he's going to add to a list here of quarterbacks that could be available for the Steelers to potentially land here during the 2024 offseason. So let's start with his 2023 stats here, where honestly, they haven't really been all that bad. Russell Wilson has actually had a much better season here in 2023 under Sean Payton than he did last year under Nathaniel Hackett. 66.3% completion percentage, over 200 yards per game, a nice touchdown to interception ratio at 24-8 over the last 4 games. By the way, it's 9-2, so Russell Wilson's actually been playing better, even though the team hasn't really been winning. And then the quarterback rating is pretty decent there at 97.5 as well. And then you look at Russell Wilson's numbers throughout his career. You know, he's somebody that used to be a bona fide MVP candidate year in and year out with the Seattle Seahawks. But, you know, last year with the Broncos really didn't play well. And then over the last couple seasons in Seattle, he was still a good quarterback. That's why Denver traded all that they did for him and then paid him all that money. But, you know, overall, over the last couple of years, he just hasn't been that same quarterback as he was there with the Seattle Seahawks. And if you ask me if I think the Pittsburgh Steelers should trade for Russell Wilson, I would say there is no way the Steelers should go out and trade for Russell Wilson. Right? And there's a number of reasons why this would be a terrible idea for Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin to pursue. Let's start with the contract situation, shall we? Because this is a doozy. 5 years left on his current contract. 5, all right? Next year, the cap hit isn't awful, I guess, at $25.4 million. But then after that, the final 4 years of his contract, his cap hit gets over $53 million for all 4 of those seasons. That is one of the highest cap hits in all of the NFL over that 4-year stretch. And there is no way I am willing to pay Russell Wilson that kind of money, especially because the Steelers just straight up can't afford to. All right, even if they wanted to trade for Russell Wilson, they don't have the cap space. They're already paying TJ Watt at the top of the market. They gave Alex Highsmith that big extension that kicks in next year. Minkah Fitzpatrick and Cam Hayward are still making big money. Deontay Johnson still has a pretty big contract. And because of all the money that the Steelers have spent for the 2024 season already, they already have negative cap space for next season, all right? So even if they wanted to go out and add a $25+ million cap hit for a quarterback, they just can't do it. So not only shouldn't the Steelers make this trade, I don't think it's even feasibly possible, financially possible for the Steelers to really make this work. And I really don't think it would be worth it, even if the Steelers could pull this off from a financial standpoint. I think Wilson would be an upgrade over what the Steelers have had in Kenny Pickett and Mitchell Trubisky and Mason Rudolph this year to this point. But if you're going to be taking on a $25+ million cap hit in 2024 and then a cap hit that gets all the way up to $53+ million over the next 4 seasons after that, I just think there is absolutely no way Russell Wilson is worth that kind of money. All right, so if it's not going to be Russell Wilson, who should it be? Let me know down there in the comments section. Who do you want for to be the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers here in 2024? This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So whenever you get a second here, when YouTube throws you an ad break in a couple of seconds, do me a favor, find that pinned comment at the top of the comment section and answer today's pinned question. All right, so let's kind of shift over to what ESPN thinks would be a good idea for the Pittsburgh Steelers to pursue if they wanted to replace Kenny Pickett. And they kind of connected 2 quarterbacks to the black and gold, one via trade and one via free agency. The one via trade that they thought would be a good idea is current Seattle Seahawks starter that we'll see this Sunday, Geno Smith. All right, this comes from Bill Barnwell, an ESPN writer. And listen, Geno Smith is a pretty decent quarterback, all right? You look at his stats this year, 64.4 completions, over 240 yards per game passing, pretty darn good. The touchdowns have been a bit lower this year since last year at just 15, and the interceptions are at 9. Not a fantastic ratio, and then the quarterback rating is at 89.1. All right, and, I actually did my scouting report this week on Geno, so that comes at perfect timing. I think some of the pros that you get with Geno is he's got great arm strength. He can move in the pocket really well. He can feel pressure, can move inside that pocket well. He's got great size, so he can see over offensive linemen. And then he's got a great deep ball throwing down the field. I think that deep ball would pair really nicely with George Pickens. But the cons with him is that he can be a bit too aggressive throwing the ball down the field, leading to turnover-worthy throws. The mobility and playmaking instincts just aren't going to do much for you. And then the injury concerns, he has been dealing with injuries this year, and he is getting older as well. So I think he's a pretty decent NFL starter, and he would be better than anybody the Steelers have on their roster right now. But the problem is the Steelers can't afford Geno Smith either. They can't afford Russell Wilson. I mean, they really can't afford Russ, but they can't afford Geno Smith either. You take a look at his contract situation right now. He just signed an extension last year, 2 years left on his current deal. His cap hit next year, if he's traded, will go to 22.5. So that's a pretty big cap hit right there for someone like Geno Smith. And then 2025, it gets even bigger there to $25 million. So I just don't know how the Steelers can possibly pull this off. Now, of course, you can restructure, you can cut some guys, you can do a bunch of different things, some different tricks to create cap space. But even if you create that much cap space, I'm just not sure it's worth the money to go out and get a guy like Geno Smith, who, in my opinion, is not really worth that kind of money at this point in the NFL season. Now, coming up here, we got another ESPN QB target that they want the Steelers to consider in free agency. But before we get into that, let's have a word from our sponsor here at PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. If you're looking for a way to spice up your game days this NFL season, I think PrizePicks will be perfect for you because it's a skill-based, real money, daily fantasy sports game. You might be asking yourselves, Jack, how does daily fantasy sports work? Well, here's how you play. You pick 2 to 6 players, and if they'll go for more or less than their PrizePicks projection. You can even win up to 25 times your money on any entry. So if you know ball, you can absolutely make some money with PrizePicks today. And even this week here in Week 16. So this is my PrizePicks entry for Week 17 for the Steelers game against the Seahawks. I'm going to take the less on Geno Smith passing yards. I think this defense is going to do a good job corralling and putting a lid on the Seattle Seahawks offense. I'm going to take the more on George Pickens receiving yards after his bounce-back game last week against the Bengals. I'm going to take the less on DK Metcalf receiving yards because he's going to have Joey Porter Jr. all over him, and I don't think he's going to have that good of a football game. You can get your picks in now before the start of Week 17 by checking it out at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. So this one kind of threw me for a loop, man. I'm not going to lie. Bill Barnwell, in that same article connecting the Steelers to Geno Smith, says that if you don't want to go get Geno, you can just sign Case Keenum to compete with Kenny Pickett in free agency next year. And I'm not too sure how I feel about this potential idea for the Pittsburgh Steelers at all. You look at his stats this year in relief of C.J. Stroud, and the completion percentage, not all that great, 63.9. I guess it's not terrible. Yards per game, 229. It's not awful, but he's only thrown one touchdown to one interception. The quarterback rating is at 79.5. So he's been far from terrible. I think he's a capable backup. But bringing him in as a legitimate veteran, capable starter to compete with Kenny Pickett, I just don't really see how that works for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think the only way that this really happens is if they really want to keep Kenny Pickett and they really want him to start next year, but they don't want to keep Mitchell Trubisky or Mason Rudolph as a backup, and you want to bring in Case Keenum as a true backup. Because I really do not see Case Keenum as somebody that's going to be able to compete, even with a guy like Kenny Pickett, for a starting job here in the National Football League, at least not anymore. And if you're looking for a guy that can come in and compete with Pickett and truly give him a run for his money, I would recommend going and getting Jacoby Brissett from the Washington Commanders. And you know what? The Commanders just named Jacoby their starter for probably the last 2 weeks of this season, starting this week against the San Francisco 49ers and Eric Bieniemy's offense. And I'd recommend you guys checking out that football game before the Steelers play the Seahawks in the afternoon period, because Jacoby Brissett has played really good football this year. In limited action, he's only had 5 drives this year in the first-team offense where he's had a pass attempt, but in those 5 drives, 78.3 completion percentage, almost a touchdown, or almost a first down, I should say, every time he throws the football. The touchdown percentage is at a whopping 13%. That is absolutely astronomical, and he hasn't thrown an interception. The quarterback rating is also through the roof here through the first 5 drives of his season here. And then last year with the Cleveland Browns, very solid starter, was a top 15 graded quarterback in the National Football League, played a lot better statistically than Deshaun Watson when he eventually got back from his suspension. What a scumbag, by the way, Deshaun Watson is. But anyway, look at Jacoby Brissett, 64% completions, pretty good number there. It's a run-heavy offense, so they only got to 163 yards per game passing, but 12-6 touchdown-to-interception ratio is pretty decent if you ask me. And he's definitely a capable starter in this league, and he has been for a very, very long time. And if the Steelers end up doing what I think they're going to do, or at least what I hope that they're going to do, and Mike Tomlin is going to hire his buddy, Eric Bieniemy, after the Commanders let him loose this season, I think that Jacoby Brissett going from Washington with Eric Bieniemy to Pittsburgh with Eric Bieniemy would be a perfect fit. All right, it would be awesome to have somebody with experience in that offense come in and really give Kenny Pickett a run for his money and really make the kid earn the job. I mean, I think if you bring in Case Keenum, I think he's more of just a true backup. But if you bring in a guy like Jacoby Brissett that's actually had some recent success and could actually be a good quarterback for this team moving forward, I think it gives Pickett lights a fire under his ass a little bit. And who knows, maybe even he turns into a good quarterback with an offseason with Jacoby Brissett to challenge him every step of the way. Now, coming up next, I'm going to let you know if Kenny Pickett could start this week, if he is healthy enough to start over Mason Rudolph. But before I get into that, do me a favor, click that thumbs up icon and like today's video if you are a Steelers Talk real one and you support the show. All right, so let's get into Kenny Pickett here, where he told the media here today on Wednesday that he feels ready to play. He feels like that ankle is ready to go, and he's ready to get the start over the Seattle Seahawks here in Week 17. Now, earlier in the week, Mike Tomlin at his press conference had this to say about Kenny Pickett's injury status and how it might affect his availability. He says there's multiple variables in the discussion, and Kenny's health or his relative health is a component of it as well. So I based on the comments that Mike Tomlin had at his press conference today, I'll just say this, guys. Don't be stunned if Kenny Pickett is named the starter before the Steelers begin their game on Sunday afternoon. I know that Tomlin has already said that Rudolph is the starter heading into the week, but he had a number of opportunities to say straight up that Mason would start over Kenny Pickett if Pickett is healthy enough, and he refused to do so. So if Kenny Pickett ends up getting completely cleared by his doctors here, it really wouldn't shock me whatsoever if Mike Tomlin pulls the trigger for Kenny Pickett and he's the one starting over Mason Rudolph by Sunday afternoon. But I really do think because Mason played so well last week, Pickett's probably going to have to earn it in practice and really show he is the superior quarterback. All right, so now what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comment section. What is the percent chance that Kenny Pickett is the Steelers' starting quarterback for the 2024 season? Put it on a scale of 0 to 100 for me. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. For me personally, my answer is going to be 60%. I think it's more likely than not that Pickett ends up coming back. I do think that they'll end up signing a veteran or potentially drafting another young quarterback in the mid-round, something along those lines. But something about knowing the Pittsburgh Steelers organization, how they're extremely loyal, knowing that Matt Canada was the offensive coordinator here, it just feels like Kenny Pickett is going to get one more shot to prove that he is the guy here in Pittsburgh. I mean, you can make an argument whether or not that's the right decision, but I think that's what's going to happen, and I'd put a 60% label on that. All right, so if you want more Steelers news and rumors content on Twitter/X, I also do my film analysis on my Twitter account. You can go check me out at Jack_Sperry. And then also make sure you click that subscribe button. Really do appreciate all of your support, guys. That'll be that will be it for the end of today's show. Really do appreciate all of your support. I will see you guys next time. And until next time, here we go, Steelers.